Hey, what's going on, guys? Ryan Kostrowski here. This is Wisconsin Sports Talk. So, as you can see, I haven't been on here the last week or so. I've been extremely busy with the DFS channel, DFS 5-pack, talking through baseball and basketball. Personal life's crazy right now, but shouldn't let that get in the way of talking sports. It's been kind of an up and down roller coaster ride for the Wisconsin sports teams the last couple of weeks. Milwaukee sweeps through the Pistons. I mean, kind of expected that. That was a complete and total mismatch. The Pistons were the worst team in the playoffs without their best player for the first two games, and then a hobbled Blake Griffin at best, games 3 and 4. Valiant effort by Blake to get out there and to, play as hard as he did, but ultimately it was just a complete and total mismatch. So we swept that series, but we were supposed to sweep that series. So then we get into game 1, and I don't have a lot of positives to take out of it. Obviously, Milwaukee got their absolute butt kicked. It was bad. It was really, really bad. And if they play like this the rest of the series, I'm eating a giant crow sandwich because I've been saying all year long that this team is better than the Boston Celtics. There was nothing to believe that in this first game, especially within the third quarter. And I feel very confident in our abilities to win this game tonight. What I saw in game 1, mostly from the defensive end, was a total lack of effort, which was very uncharacteristic of this team throughout the year. I feel really good about tonight's game. I hope I'm not eating a giant crow sandwich after tonight. But let's give Boston a round of applause. They brought it game 1. They were the better team, tip to end. There was a little run by Milwaukee in the second quarter when they were down by 15 where they closed it out. Really, that was the only glimmer of hope I saw all day long. And the Celtics, not only did we play poorly, again, the Celtics took that game and they won that game. I have found a lot of times, and I'm sure some of you guys can back me up here, Wisconsin-based sports fans, and a lot of this comes from the fact the Packers have been pretty good for the past 3 decades, have a tendency to say, oh, that was our fault every time that we lose. Sometimes another team plays better and outplays you, and that was the Celtics. If you look through this game, they shot 54% from the field. They shot 42% from the three-point range. That is substantially better than the 35% reshot and the 33% reshot from 3. The flip side of that, though, is they deserve to shoot a lot better. They were taking open shots. How many wide open shots did Al Horford get on that little pick and pop play? Way too simple. Jaylen Brown was getting wide open 3-pointers. I mean, going back to Al Horford again, he played great defensively on Giannis, and he deserves a lot of credit for it. But we also let them have this game because our effort was an F, their effort was an A. In a lot of ways, this game wasn't even as close as the 22-point discrepancy that it ended up being. We had a hot 3-minute run where we closed the 15-point gap in the second quarter. Outside of that, man, I mean, you take that away, they won this game by 37 points. So it was a beatdown of epic proportions. Now, why did we deserve to think positively about game 2 tonight? Why should we have a smile on our face? Why do we feel that we can come back and even this series at 1-1? I want to bring up a couple of examples just from today's or this year's playoff run already, and I'll go just really brief into our memory banks last night. In game 1, Toronto looks like the substantially better team. Kawhi Leonard looked like they had no answer for him. And in game 2, Philly flipped the script on him really quickly. Now Philly goes back as the favorite in the series, having home court advantage for the rest of the series. Having it tied 1-1 doesn't mean that they're going to win this series, but we saw how quickly things can change. Let's take a little shimmy out to the Western Conference for a little bit and talk about round 1. In game 1, San Antonio went to Denver, which is a real tough place to play. They won that game, and they won it, I wouldn't say handily, but they won it even more convincing than the point discrepancy would tell you that it would be. Then in game 2, San Antonio was beating Denver down early in that game. Jamal Murray went absolutely crazy in the fourth quarter, and after that, Denver looked like a real force to be reckoned with. So you hear some people like Paul Pierce, I believe it was, came out saying that this series is over, it's a lock. Guys, it's one game. Let's not hyperventilate. Let's not overreact based on what we saw in game 1. And again, I will say it again. Game 1, Boston took it, re-gave it up. When you see a blowout like this against 2 pretty good basketball teams, one team was bad and one team was good. It's not just that one team was good and one team was middle of the road. Like Boston was phenomenal, and we were a giant pile of poo sandwiches. That's just the way that it was. We were awful. If you go look at this team statistically, I'm going to call out a couple of people. Antetokounmpo, Nice work shooting 3 of 5 from 3, my man. You are, in my mind, if not the best, one of the best players in the league. I still think you're the MVP, but you got to play better, buddy. You shot 58% from the field in the regular season. You shot 33% from the field. Now, one glimmer of hope that Milwaukee could have is the refs really held their whistles game one. Now, you might look at the free throw discrepancy. The fact that Milwaukee got to the rim or got to the free throw line and shot 24 3-throw attempts for the fact that they only shot 8 is saying, wow, man, the refs really did Milwaukee a favor. No, they didn't. Let's just call it what it is. Milwaukee goes to the paint a lot more. They're going to take more fouls. Antetokounmpo and Bledsoe attack the rack with reckless abandon. Boston doesn't have anybody like that. Even Kyrie, who is great at getting to the hole, he's shooting teardrops and floaters and, all sorts of little other gimmicky type of plays that he does about as well as anybody for a small guy that we've seen since probably Allen Iverson. So that's Kyrie's game. But he's not drawing contact the way that Giannis Antetokounmpo draws contact. Now, were they fouling Giannis a lot? Yeah, they were. He shot 10 free throws. He could have shot a lot more. But the refs held on to their whistle, which I'm not really mad about. That's playoff basketball. That's what's to be expected. I'm not saying they hold on to the whistles tonight, but most of you guys have watched playoff basketball before. It's not quite as tight. And the way that the modern NBA has gone, they do hold on to their whistles a little bit in the post. They're very, very lenient out on the perimeter, hence the reason that the Rockets have been doing so much complaining the last couple of days. But if they decide to not hold their whistles today, Giannis, who should be more aggressive, Bledsoe, who we can only hope will be more aggressive, could create foul trouble for guys like Al Horford, Marcus Morris, Jason Tatum, and things like that. Bledsoe picked up a quick foul about a minute into the game in game one, which limits his ability to be aggressive on Kyrie a little bit. But for me, that is the biggest guy that we need something from if we want to win this series is Eric Bledsoe. Chris Middleton's going to do his thing. He shot 3 of 4 from 3, 10 boards, 6 assists. He was one of the few bright spots for Milwaukee game one. I can count on Chris Middleton. I know he's going to show up. He always shows up against Boston. I need to count on the Milwaukee Bucks to get Chris Middleton the ball a little bit more. If they're going to focus all the defensive tension onto Giannis Antetokounmpo, and I understand why they would do that, not only does he need to hit the open shooters and we need to knock them down, we need to get the ball in the hands of Chris Middleton. Chris Middleton is our most versatile offensive player. Love Bledsoe, love Lopez, love Antetokounmpo. But Chris Middleton can shoot the three. He can create his own shot. He can create shots for others. And he's got a mid-range game unlike anybody else that we have on this roster. In fact, he's really the only guy with a mid-range game, with the exception of Nico Mirotic just a little bit, but he's not playing big minutes, at least not as of yet. So going down through our starting lineup, I wasn't expecting much from Sterling Brown. I like Sterling Brown, but you're clearly the 6th or 7th fiddle on this team. You're filling in. You did a great job against Detroit, but again, the Boston Celtics are not the Detroit Pistons. The Celtics were a preseason favorite. They were a big letdown throughout the regular season, but this team is loaded with talent. The Pistons just aren't. So I would take some out of Brown. If he could shoot better of 1 of 7, I would like that, but he is not the guy I'm looking at to turn this thing around. Eric Bledsoe needs to play better. He just ain't the giant contract with them. Well, giant maybe is a little bit of an overstatement. He ain't the nice contract with the Milwaukee Bucks. He's going to be here for a few more years. By every sense of it, I felt like he was outplayed by George Hill. The plus minus puts him at each at a minus 12. But from what I need out of these guys, George Hill, in my opinion, outplayed Eric Bledsoe in game one. He just did. And if that's going to be the way things are, give Hill more time. I need Bledsoe to get out of his own head. There is something about this Celtics team and scary Terry Rozier and Kyrie that gets into his head. And even if he's not going to be great from an offensive sense, I need him to make life really, really difficult on Kyrie Irving. That's what Eric Bledsoe does really well. He is an absolute pit bull on the defensive end. He needs to play like that. If Eric Bledsoe doesn't step up, the Bucks have, in my opinion, next to no chance of advancing in the series. All right, next up. Person number 2 I need to step up is going to be Brook Lopez. Lopez, 1 of 5 from the field, 1 of 4 from three-point range. The only shot that he made was a wide-open 3. Only 1 block shot, only 3 points. That was very disappointing. And I can't say that I'm really that surprised about either of these guys who have both not been great against the Boston Celtics this year. Now, fortunately, the Bucks were able to take 2 of 3 from Boston in the regular season. But if you look through what Brook Lopez did, it wasn't great. against Boston this year in 3 games. This is the 3rd time he scored 3 points or less. He had one decent game in the home game where he went for 10 and 8. Nothing crazy, nothing insane or anything like that. I need him to be better defensively. He did have 6 blocks against the Boston Celtics in the regular season. Need him to step that up defensively. I need him to rebound better. I need him to hustle a little bit more. I need some of his guts out there. And that's where we might be turning. If he can't step it up, there's a couple other guys we can turn to over here. And I want to talk about Nikola Mirotic. We brought this dude in for a reason. He was an absolute clutch performer last year for the Pelicans against the Portland Trail Blazers. A big part, in addition to Drew Holiday and Anthony Davis, to why the Pelicans were able to sweep the Portland Trail Blazers last year. Nico came in, shot 5 and 9. His -8, albeit in not a lot of minutes, is one of the better plus minuses on the floor. He shot 3 of 4 from 3-point range, and he looked engaged and assertive. If Brook Lopez isn't going to bring it, give me some more Nico. Give me some more Ersan. Ersan will go in there and do all the dirty work. And while he shot 0 of 5 from 3, his -6 was also a lot better than what you got from some of the starters. So if Eric Bledsoe and Brook Lopez aren't going to bring it, give me some Nikola Mirotic and George Hill. These are capable players. George Hill was a starter in the finals last year. Now, albeit the Cavs squad around LeBron was pathetic, and the fact that LeBron brought them to the finals is funny in its own right. But give me some Ersan. Give me some Nico. If Brook Lopez isn't going to show me that he's going to play better, get him out of there. Now, Brook Lopez doesn't always just do it in the statistical categories. Again, his +2 is the only Milwaukee Buck that I'm seeing in positive numbers. So while he played in those 26 minutes, they were positive. I would just like to see a little bit more aggression from him. I'd like to posting up a little bit more. Take those up. When you get a mouse in the house, take him down low, drop it down to Giannis. As soon as that double team comes, hits the open shooter. Now, I need the rest of you cats to hit your threes because Milwaukee was 13 of 39 from 3, but only 10 of 34 for guys outside of Giannis. And if you take Middleton out of there and Giannis out of there, this team was 6 and 9, was 7 of 30, which is under 25%, which is not good enough. Mirotic and Middleton and Giannis hit their threes, but Lopez and Bledsoe and Brown combined to be 2 of 11. Ersan went 0 of 5. George Hill 1 of 3. Connaughton 1 of 7. I like me some Pat Connaughton, but you got to shoot the ball better than 2 of 10. Giannis, you need to be a little bit more either aggressive or savvy when you get down into the lane. They were hacking you a little bit, but that's playoff basketball. I need you to rise to the occasion. So the Bucks are actually pretty big favorites tonight, -7.5 against Boston. That's better than the -5.5 Golden State is over Houston. That seems high to me. But my sports betting business partner over at our DFS gig feels really confident, and he's not a Milwaukee guy. He's a Cleveland guy, that Milwaukee will win by double digits tonight. All we need to do tonight is go out and win this game, and the series is tied 1-1. Go back to Boston, ride the momentum, win games 3 or 4. And again, the series is going to be close. We get game 7 at Pfizer Forum if we can only get it that long. We need to see a better performance tonight because if we go down 0-2, I'll tell you right now, the series is over. Boston is not going to lose 4 or 5 games, especially with 3 of them being in their home on their home court. So it's up to you, Bucks. I've talked about you guys very glowingly all year. I feel like you've deserved it. If you had told me at the beginning of the season that Milwaukee was going to have a nice home court or a nice regular season record and losing round 2 to the Boston Celtics, I'd have said, sure, I can live with that. Growing pains, won a series. But losing to Boston in round 2 is now considered a disappointment to me. Big time. So let's get it together, guys. I think we can do this. Let's turn it around. We need to win this game tonight. If we win this game tonight, we're right back in this series 1-1. Let's not dwell on things if we do win this one, and we'll be right back there. Now let's just go out and do it. All right, guys, thanks a lot. Have yourself a great day, and we'll hopefully get back on here soon to talk a little bit more Wisconsin-based sports.